You have 30 days to move out, my mother said with a smirk. We sold your apartment to Lisa. I smiled and held up a document. Actually, Grandma left me 2 properties. Their smiles vanished as when they realized, you have 30 days to move out. My mother smirked, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against my kitchen counter. We sold your apartment to Lisa. I stood in my sun-filled kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd hosted countless family dinners, built my catering business from scratch, and nursed my grandmother through her final days. The morning light cast long shadows across the hardwood floors she'd helped me restore, making the space feel almost surreal. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and at 35, I never expected to be facing eviction from my own home by my own family. Don't look so shocked. My brother James chimed in from beside her, his arm wrapped protectively around his wife Lisa's shoulders. You barely use this place anyway. Always traveling for your catering events. Lisa needs a proper home now that the baby's coming. The baby, of course. Lisa's pregnancy had become the family's latest excuse for giving my brother everything he wanted, just like they had all through our childhood. I took a slow sip of my coffee, enjoying the momentary flash of uncertainty that crossed my mother's face at my calmness. And you thought selling my apartment was the solution? Well, it's not technically yours anymore, my mother said, pulling out a folder of papers. Your father and I kept our names on the deed when you moved in, remember? For tax purposes. Her smile turned predatory. We signed the papers yesterday. Lisa and James get possession in 30 days. I thought about the last conversation I've had with my grandmother just weeks before she passed. She'd been sitting in this very kitchen, her eyes sharp despite her failing health. They'll try to take it from you, she warned. Your mother never did forgive me for not giving her this building when she married your father. The apartment had been in my grandmother's family for generations. The entire building actually, a beautiful pre-war structure in one of the city's most desirable neighborhoods. My mother had grown up here expecting to inherit it all. Instead, my grandmother had different plans. I know what you did with the money I gave you, she told me that day, watching as I kneaded dough for her favorite roles. Investing in your business, building something real, not like James with his failed startups and Lisa with her Instagram lifestyle brand. She'd reach into her bag, pulling out an envelope. Keep this safe, don't tell them until you have to. Now, standing in my kitchen facing my family's betrayal, I felt the weight of that envelope in my desk drawer upstairs. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, we should probably discuss something. I walked to my office aware of their impatient sighs behind me. My mother had never approved of me turning the second bedroom into a workspace. A proper lady needs a proper guest room, she'd sniffed. I returned with my own folder, worn at the edges, but meticulously maintained. Before we talk about me moving out, you might want to see this. What is that? Lisa asked. Speaking for the first time, she looked uncomfortable. One hand resting on her barely visible bump. The real deed, I said simply, laying it on the counter and the proof of ownership for the building next door. My mother's face went pale as she read the documents. 2 properties, both transferred to my name 3 years ago, signed and notarized with my grandmother's distinct signature. The apartment had never belonged to my parents. My grandmother had kept their names on the rental agreement to keep the peace, but the property had passed directly to me. This can't be legal. My mother sputtered, her composed facade cracking. Oh, it's legal, I assured her. Mr. Patterson handled everything himself. The mention of my grandmother's longtime lawyer made her flinch. You might want to check the validity of your sale to Lisa and James. It's hard to sell something you don't own. James grabbed the papers, his face turning an interesting shade of red. You knew about this the whole time. You let us go through with the sale. I found out about your plans weeks ago, I admitted. Grandmother always said it's better to let people show their true colors. The silence in my kitchen was deafening. Lisa had sunk into one of my bar stools looking ill. My mother was still staring at the deed like she could change it through sheer force of will. You should have told us, she finally said, her voice tight with anger. Like, you should have told me you were selling my home. I countered. The home I've lived in for 10 years, the home where I took care of grandmother when none of you would. The memories came flooding back. The late nights balancing my fledgling catering business with grandmother's care, James too busy with his latest venture to help, my parents conveniently traveling during the hardest months. I put my life on hold while they carried on as usual, secure in their assumption that the building would eventually be theirs to control. What are we supposed to do now? Lisa asked quietly. We already sold our apartment. I felt a twinge of sympathy for her. Lisa had always seemed swept along by my family's dynamics, trying to please everyone. I'm not heartless, I said. The building next door has a vacant unit on the 3rd floor, same layout as this one actually. You can rent it at market rate. Rent? James exploded. From my aunt's sister. Would you prefer to find something else in the neighborhood? I asked mildly. I hear the new luxury building down the street has openings. Of course, their 2 bedrooms start at twice what I'm offering. My mother stood up suddenly, gathering her papers with shaking hands. This isn't over, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Your grandmother had no right. She had every right. I cut in. This building was her legacy, and she chose how to pass it on. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with my property manager to discuss some updates to the security system. I watched them file out, noting how James wouldn't meet my eyes, how Lisa lingered for a moment, like she wanted to say something before following them. My mother was last, pausing in the doorway. You've changed, she said, and I couldn't tell if it was an accusation or a realization. No, I replied. I've just stopped pretending to be who you wanted me to be. After they left, I walked through my apartment, touching the walls my grandmother and I had painted together, looking out the windows where we'd watch countless sunsets. In my office, I opened the drawer and pulled out her envelope, now empty of its crucial documents, but still containing her last letter to me. Remember, she'd written, sometimes the best revenge is simply being prepared, and sometimes the greatest gift we can give is letting people face the consequences of their own actions. I smiled, thinking of how she'd seen this coming years ago. My phone buzzed a text from Lisa. Can we talk about the apartment next door? Just us? Maybe I thought some good could come from all this after all. But first, I had a security system to upgrade. After all, as grandmother always said, being prepared meant staying prepared. Outside, the city bustled on, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded in my kitchen. I had work to do, a catering business to run, properties to manage, and a family to keep at arm's length. But for now, I just stood in my kitchen, in my home, and let myself feel the quiet satisfaction of standing my ground. The next few days brought a flurry of activity I hadn't anticipated. First came the angry calls from my father, who had been conveniently absent during the initial confrontation. Your mother is beside herself, he said, his voice carrying that familiar note of disappointment. How could you embarrass the family like this? I was in my catering kitchen, prepping for a weekend wedding when he called. Embarrass the family? I repeated, carefully piping rosettes onto a 3-tier cake. By owning property, or by stopping you from illegally selling my home. Don't be difficult, Sarah. We were trying to help your brother. Family helps family. Funny, I said, stepping back to examine my work. I don't remember any of you helping me when I was sleeping on a cot in grandmother's room during her last months, or when I was building my business from scratch. The silence on his end spoke volumes. Finally, he sighed. Your mother wants to speak with our lawyer about challenging the deed. She can try, I replied calmly. Mr. Patterson has all the documentation, including videos of grandmother signing the papers and explaining her decisions. But, hey, if you want to waste money on legal fees instead of just accepting reality, that's your choice. After he hung up, I received an unexpected visitor. Lisa stood awkwardly in my kitchen doorway, looking smaller somehow without James or my mother flanking her. Can we talk? She asked, one hand resting on her slight baby bump. I brought peace offerings. She held up a bag from my favorite bakery. I gestured to a stool by the prep counter. Those better be their lemon tarts. She managed a small smile, pulling out the familiar white box and chocolate croissants. I remember you stress eating these during wedding season last year. We sat in Sihun's for a moment, the sweet smell of butter and sugar mixing with the vanilla cake I had been working on. Finally, Lisa spoke. I didn't know, she said quietly, about any of it. James told me your parents were giving us the apartment as a baby gift. I never thought. She trailed off, looking lost. You never thought they were trying to steal it from me? I finished for her. She flinched, but nodded. James said they'd discussed it with you, that you were fine with moving to a smaller place since your business takes up so much of your time anyway. She picked at a croissant, not meeting my eyes. I should have asked you directly. I thought about Liza, who had entered our family 4 years ago with stars in her eyes, so eager to please everyone. I had watched as my mother and James slowly molded her into their ideal, pushing her to quit her teaching job because a proper wife doesn't need to work, encouraging her expensive taste because appearances matter in this family. The apartment next door, I said, surprising myself. The offer still stands. 3rd floor, same layout. The previous tenants just moved out, and I was planning to renovate before listing it. Lisa looked up, hope flickering across her face. Really? Even after? On one condition, I said firmly, this stays between us. No family manipulation, no running to my mother with every detail. If you and James want to rent it, it's a business arrangement. I'll give you a fair price, but I expect everything to be professional. James won't like that, she admitted. He thinks family shouldn't have to pay family. And how's that working out for him? I asked, thinking of his string of failed businesses, each one funded by my parents' seemingly endless patience. Maybe it's time for something different. Lisa was quiet for a long time, absently rubbing her belly. Can I see it? The apartment? I grabbed my keys. No time like the present. The building next door was a mirror image of mine built by the same architect in the 1920s. The third-floor apartment needed work, scuffed hardwood floors, an outdated kitchen, but the bones were good. Large windows filled the space with natural light, and the layout was perfect for a growing family. It's beautiful, Lisa breathed, running her hand along the original crown molding. Even like this, it's beautiful. It needs updating, I acknowledged, but I was planning a full renovation anyway. If you're interested, you could have input on the finishes, make it your own. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. Why are you being so nice to me after what we tried to do? Because you're the only one who's apologized, I said simply. And because I think you might be ready to stop letting them make your decisions for you. Just then, both our phones buzzed. The family group chat I had muted days ago. My mother had sent a long message about an emergency family meeting this weekend. Your father and I have made some decisions about the future of both properties, she wrote. Attendance is mandatory. Lisa looked at me, panic flashing across her face. What are they planning? I deleted the message without reading further. Nothing that matters. They don't own these buildings, remember? They can plan all they want. James will expect me to go, she said quietly. They'll all expect us to present a united front against you. And what do you want? She looked around the apartment again, taking in the potential of the space. I want to make my own decisions, she said finally. I want my baby to grow up in a home that's ours, really ours. Even if we're renting it, not something taken from someone else. I pulled out my phone and drafted a quick email to my contractor. I can have renovation plans drawn up by next week. Standard lease, fair market rent, first month free while the work is being done. But Lisa, I waited until she met my eyes. This has to be your decision. Not James's, not my mother's, yours. She squared her shoulders, looking more confident than I had seen her in years. I'd like to see those plans when they're ready. As we walked back downstairs, I received another text. This one from my father. Your mother is looking into legal options. Don't force us to take this further. I showed it to Lisa, who shook her head. They really don't know when to stop, do they? No, I agreed, but they're about to learn. Looking at Lisa's determined expression, I realized something was shifting. The family dynamics that had once seemed set in stone were beginning to crack, revealing new possibilities underneath. Maybe this wasn't just about protecting my property anymore. Maybe it was about breaking patterns that should have been broken long ago. Want to help me finish decorating that wedding cake? I asked Lisa. I seem to remember you being pretty good at flower arranging before my mother decided it wasn't sophisticated enough for you. Her smile was genuine this time. I'd like that. And Sarah, thank you. Not just for the apartment, but for showing me there's another way to handle things. As we walked back to my kitchen, I thought about my grandmother's words again. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about showing others how to break free too. The family meeting was set for Sunday afternoon at my parents' sprawling suburban home. I hadn't planned to attend until Lisa called me in tears the night before. They're planning something, she whispered. James keeps having private calls with your father's lawyer. They're talking about challenging the inheritance, claiming grandmother wasn't competent when she signed everything over to you. I sat in my office looking at the framed photo of grandmother and me at my catering company's opening. Let them try, I said calmly. Mr. Patterson has video recordings of every meeting, every signature. Grandmother knew exactly what she was doing. There's more, Lisa continued. They want to use my pregnancy playing. We have more right to the properties because we're starting a family. James doesn't know I'm telling you this. I thought about Lisa standing up to my family for the first time, choosing truth over loyalty. Thank you for warning me. Will you be there tomorrow? Yes, she said firmly, and I'm done playing their games. Someday arrived with perfect autumn weather, the kind of day grandmother would have loved. I pulled up to my parents' house exactly on time, noting the collection of cars already there. The whole family had gathered for the show. Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut. My mother sat in her favorite armchair like a queen holding court, my father standing behind her. James paced by the window while various aunts and uncles filled the remaining seats. Lisa sat slightly apart, meeting my eyes as I entered. Sarah, my mother said coldly. So glad you decided to join us. Wouldn't miss it. I replied, remaining standing. Though I'm curious why we're here since the property situation is already settled. My father stepped forward, holding a familiar-looking folder. We've been reviewing the circumstances of your grandmother's decisions. Our lawyer has concerns about her state of mind in those final months. Really? I kept my voice level. The months when I was caring for her while all of you were too busy. You manipulated her, James snapped. turned her against us while she was vulnerable. Before I could respond, Lisa stood up. No. She didn't. I was there sometimes, remember, when none of you visited? Grandmother was sharp as ever. She knew exactly what she was doing. The room went silent. James stared at his wife in shock. Lisa, sit down. This doesn't concern you, doesn't it? She moved to stand beside me. You're trying to steal a home using our baby as an excuse. I won't be part of it. My mother's face darkened. Lisa dear, you're upset. Pregnancy hormones, don't. Lisa cut her off. Don't try to dismiss me. Sarah offered us a beautiful apartment, a fair rent, a chance to make our own home. But that's not enough for you, is it? You have to have everything, control everything. I pulled out my phone, queuing up a video. Before this goes any further, you should watch something. I connected to the TV and suddenly, grandmother's face filled the screen. I'm recording this, she said in the video, because I know my daughter. She never forgave me for not giving her control of the buildings when she married. But property isn't just about ownership, it's about stewardship. Sarah understands that. She's built something real, helped others build their dreams too. The properties are hers fully and legally. Any attempt to challenge this will only reveal your own greed. The video continued showing grandmother clearly stating her wishes, signing documents, Mr. Patterson verifying everything. When it ended, the silence was deafening. There's more, I said quietly. Years of documentation. Would you like to see the medical evaluations confirming her competency? The witness statements. How far do you want to take this? My father dropped his folder. My mother's face had gone pale, but it was James who surprised me. You knew, he said to Lisa. You knew about the apartment next door. You've been talking to her. Lisa straightened her spine. Yes. Because she's the only one who's been honest. The only one who offered us a real chance, not schemes and manipulation. The renovation plans are drawn up, I added. If you're still interested. But this ends now. No more challenges, no more threats. The buildings are mine. And that's final. My mother stood abruptly. I think you should all leave. We need time to process this. As we walked out, Lisa caught my arm. I'd like to see those renovation plans, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear for our new home. Outside, the autumn sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. Lisa and I walked to our cars together, leaving behind the sounds of argument from the house. You know, they'll never forgive us, she said. I thought about grandmother's words about stewardship, about building something real maybe. But we'll build something better instead. 6 months later, I stood in the newly renovated apartment next door, watching Lisa arrange fresh flowers in the sunlight kitchen. Her baby bump was much more prominent now, and the nursery down the hall was ready and waiting. The renovation had transformed the space into something beautiful. Warm wooden floors, bright open spaces, and a kitchen that rivaled mine. The marble countertops were worth every penny, Lisa said, adjusting a stem in her arrangement. She had rediscovered her love of flower arranging, even starting a small side business designing centerpieces for my catering events. Though James is still adjusting to the rent payments, the months following the family confrontation have brought significant changes. James, faced with losing both his wife's support and his parents' financial safety net, had finally taken a real job at a consulting firm. He wasn't speaking to me yet, but Lisa said he was different at home. More focused, less entitled. My parents had tried the silent treatment first, then tearful guilt trips, and finally reluctant acceptance. The turning point came during the holidays when my mother showed up at my door looking older and unusually uncertain. I've been thinking about what your grandmother said, she admitted, not quite meeting my eyes. About stewardship, about building something real. She had taken a deep breath. I didn't build anything, I just expected things to be given to me. Now watching Lisa prepare for her upcoming baby shower, the first family event since the confrontation, I thought about how much had changed. Your mother RSVP'd, Lisa said, reading my mind. She asked if she could bring her lemon squares. I raised an eyebrow. The famous lemon squares she never shared the recipe for. She offered to teach me how to make them. Lisa smiled. Baby steps, right? My phone buzzed. A message from my property manager about a longtime tenant who needed some maintenance work. Under my management, both buildings had flourished. I had started a program helping small business owners rent commercial spaces at reasonable rates, watching new dreams take root and grow. Miss Mitchell, a voice called from the hallway. It was Maria, one of my commercial tenants who ran a successful alterations business in the building. I brought the curtains for the nursery and some empanadas to my grandmother's recipe. This was the community grandmother had envisioned. People supporting each other, building something together. As Lisa and Maria discussed the curtains, sharing food and stories, I slipped away to my own apartment. In my office, I opened the bottom drawer where I kept grandmother's last letter. The paper was worn now, but her words remained clear. Property is more than bricks and mortar, Sarah. It's about creating spaces where people can grow, where communities can thrive. You understand that in a way your mother never did. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. To my surprise, it was James. "Can we talk?" he asked, looking uncomfortable but determined about everything. We sat in my kitchen, the same space where this had all started months ago. James stared into his coffee cup, gathering his thoughts. "Lisa's happier than I've ever seen her," he finally said. "The apartment, her flower business, even the way she stands up to Mom now. I didn't realize how much we were all suffocating under their expectations." "And you?" I asked carefully. "I'm learning," he admitted. "Real work, real responsibilities. It's different, hard sometimes, but better." He looked up. "I'm sorry, Sarah, for trying to take your home, for not standing up to them sooner." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the property manager, this time about a potential commercial tenant, a small bakery looking to expand. "Want to see something?" I asked James. Something grandmother understood that took me a while to learn. I led him down to the commercial spaces, introducing him to Maria at her alteration shop, to old Mr. Chen's bookstore, to the new art gallery that showcased local artists. Each space held a story, a dream being built. This is what it's really about. I explained not just owning property, but creating spaces where people can succeed, where they can be independent. James was quiet for a moment. "Like Lisa with her flowers, like you with your catering." "Exactly." I turned to face him. The apartment was never just about having somewhere to live. It was about having the freedom to build something of my home. Later that evening, as I helped Lisa finish the baby shower preparations, I thought about family, not just the one we're born into, but the one we build around us. Maria had brought more empanadas. Mr. Chen contributed specialty for the party, and even my mother had called to ask if she could come early to help set up. I invited grandmother's old friends, Lisa told me, arranging name cards on the gift table. "They keep asking about you, you know. They're proud of how you've handled everything." The next morning, I stood in my kitchen again, but this time it felt different. Through the window, I could see the early sunlight hitting both buildings, the sidewalks already busy with people heading to work or school. In a few hours, these same streets would fill with family and friends celebrating new life, new beginnings. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from my mother. "Need help setting up?" I brought the lemon squares and the recipe. I smiled, thinking of grandmother's words about stewardship and growth. Sometimes standing your ground isn't just about keeping what's yours. It's about creating space for everyone to grow into better versions of themselves. Outside, the city was waking up. In a few hours, my home would fill with the sounds of celebration, a family trying to heal, of community coming together. The building stood strong and tall just as they had for generations, but now they held new stories, new dreams, and that I realized was the greatest inheritance of all. Looking at the two properties now, I understood what grandmother had known all along. It was never about keeping others out. It was about building something worth sharing, worth preserving, a legacy, not just a property, but of possibility. The morning sun caught the windows of both buildings, making them shine like beacons in the early light. Below, Maria was opening her shop. Mr. Chen was arranging books in his window, and Lisa was probably already up arranging flowers for the shower. This was what victory really looked like, not just winning a battle, but creating something better in its wake, something that would last long after the conflicts were forgotten. I opened my group chat with Lisa and Maria. "Breakfast, before the chaos begins? I'm making coffee." Their responses came quickly, enthusiastic and warm. In my kitchen, I started the coffee maker, pulled out fresh pastries and opened the windows to let in the morning air. This was home, not just the apartment, but the whole community we built. And this time, it was built on a foundation strong enough to last.